everyone, it's Tash and welcome to another recipe video, and this week we are making a blueberry custard tart, also known as tarte or myrtilles, although technically I'm not using myrtilles, which is the French name for blueberries. Well, technically bilberries, those are the wild European blueberries, and the blueberries we usually use and see in the supermarket are the American ones, the bigger ones. And those are easier to find, but if you can find bilberries then please do use them because they have that bit more intensity and flavour. In fact, I usually use frozen bilberries for this. I've posted this recipe before when I did use frozen bilberries. I'll post a link now. And even long before I published the recipe on tashcakes.com, I've been making this tart for several years using frozen bilberries. But in today's recipe video, I'm actually going to be using fresh ones. Because for the first time, when I tried to make it with frozen ones, it went horribly wrong. What happened was, for some reason, the bilberries were really frosty inside the bag, so there was a lot of water content in the frost, which isn't normal. That usually means there's some sort of breach in the bag so moisture can get in. Or sometimes it means that the product is really old, which I hope not. Anyway, I tried to muddle through it, and it was a disaster because there was so much moisture it bubbled over and it fused the pastry to the tin, and I couldn't get the tart out of the tin. It was a massive disaster. I was so annoyed. I've been making this tart for years without any trouble, and suddenly on the day that I actually want to film a nice detailed video, betrayal by blueberries. And because I use a very specific brand, they are called Picard, they're a French brand, and you can't just get them anywhere. I get them online. I couldn't just go out and buy more, so I thought, alright, I'll just go get some fresh blueberries from the supermarket locally. And it works just the same, and it is just as delicious because you can see the fresh blueberries, you can see there's no extra stuff inside. So I guess it's a bit more reliable that way. So today we're making this tart with fresh blueberries. And the extra, not so secret ingredient, because I'm telling you it now, is creme fraiche. You use creme fraiche instead of cream in that custard to set the fruit, and it imparts this lovely tartness to it. It's so lovely, and it really cuts through what could otherwise be quite a rich dessert. Because blueberries are quite a sweet fruit, they're not really that tart, so the extra bit of sharpness from the creme fraiche is perfect. I have filmed this 1.5 times now because I made the pastry and the filling from scratch and I had to do it all over again. So you will see the footage of me making the pastry and the custard filling first, and then you will see where I have had to make the pastry and the filling again, because obviously I had to throw, unfortunately, the first pie away. Most of it. I tried to salvage a bit with a spoon. Myself and my husband dug in straight from the tin, but man, it was a mess. And if you know me, you know I hate waste, so it was heartbreaking. But thankfully, second time round, as usual, it worked, thank goodness. So beware of frosty blueberries. If you open a bag of frozen blueberries, if you're using those frozen berries, and it's covered in frost, don't use it, it's not going to work. Either defrost it completely and then drain away all that extra water, or get a new bag of blueberries, or get fresh blueberries. Both work the same. Anyway, let's go to the kitchen and see how it's done. Now, before we start mixing and baking, we're actually going to do a bit of prep work with the eggs. 90% of good baking is all prep work because it makes life easier. For this recipe, you will need 3 eggs in total, but you're not going to use every last part of all 3 eggs. This was 1 egg. I've already separated them. And for the pastry, we're going to need half an egg white. So I'm actually going to put this whole egg white aside and we'll use it later. And we also need 2 egg yolks to make the filling. So I need to crack 1 more egg, and then I'll have an egg white left over, which I'll put in the fridge and make a scrambled eggs out of or something, maybe fried rice. And also we will need a whole egg for the filling too. So the filling needs 2 egg yolks and 1 whole egg. And then you'll have 1.5 egg whites left over. So let me put a whole egg aside. Which one? Maybe this one. And I'm going to separate this egg too. So now I've got 2 egg yolks for the filling, which I will pop aside. And I've got a total of 2 egg whites, which I have separated out into bowls because I only need half of one, so I don't want to lose count. But I'm going to put one bowl away so I don't get confused and use the other bowl. I get confused too easily. Right, let's make some pastry. I've got 180 grams of unsalted butter, and this is cold butter which I've chopped up. 300 grams of plain flour. 3 tablespoonfuls of corn flour. This will make it melt in the mouth good. 3 tablespoonfuls of icing sugar to give it a little bit of sweetness. And just a pinch of salt. And we are going to add our egg white in a minute, but first, let's get this going, and I want to rub this together until it forms breadcrumbs. Well, it won't really form breadcrumbs because there is quite a lot of butter in here, so it will actually start to come together like a dough. And the egg white we're going to add in a minute is going to make it all glue together. So here we are, that's all nice and mixed together, and like I said, it doesn't quite form breadcrumbs as if you were making another type of pastry, because there is quite a lot of butter in there, and if you give it a squeeze, it does come together, but it's still a bit too crumbly, and that is exactly where our egg white comes in. So let me dust off a little bit first. We're going to grab one of our egg whites, and we're literally just going to use half. Whoops, that's quite a lot. That was a big half, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to be 100% exact. And we're going to work that in too until we have a nice smooth dough. And as if by magic, it has all come together, and that's so lovely and smooth. Okay, let's progress to the next part. Prepare our tart dish. This one's about 8.5 inches. And I'm just going to lightly oil it all around. Nice, let's just pop that aside for a second. Now we're going to roll our pastry out. To make life easier, because this is a very soft pastry, I've got myself 2 sheets of non-stick baking paper. Here's the first one. Dump the dough right on top. Just centre it a little bit, and then we're going to pop over the top. Let's manually start pressing that down. And then we're going to grab our rolling pin, I don't know why I went a bit Italian opera there, and start rolling until we have about this thickness, what is that, about 5mm thickness in pastry. We're going to roll out a really wide big disc. Quick size check, it needs to be bigger than the tin, a little bit more. Another quick size check. That should do. Let's peel off this top layer. Shift this over a bit. This is where it gets a little bit dicey, but don't panic, because if there are any tears in the pastry, you can patch it up with the excess. So I'm literally just going to put my hand over the top here. See if you can see it a bit more clearly, don't have much space, like that, and then flip it over. Let's do a countdown, shall we? A countdown of prayer. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Alright, could have been worse. Peel this off. Now let's gently ease that into the pan. Like I said, don't worry if there are any tears and breaks. You have plenty of excess pastry to patch it up. In fact, you'll have so much excess pastry, you'll be able to make a few spare biscuits with it. It makes absolutely delicious shortbread style biscuits too. You can always steal some pastry from the side. If you see a thin bit like this side here, it's a little bit thinner than the rest. Just use it to patch it up and squeeze it up, so that when everyone gets a slice of this tart, everyone gets an equal share of this lovely buttery sweet pastry. Don't want to cheat anyone out of their pastry. And to cut off the excess pastry, I simply roll it on top. So simple. Awesome. Do not throw this away, we're going to make biscuits with these in a second. Absolutely lovely stuff. Now we're going to prick the bottom all over, and this will help create a really nice crispy base. No soggy bottoms on my watch. And we're going to pop this in the fridge just to chill for 15 minutes. Now about our excess dough, we're literally going to hand shape this into a shortbread round. You can use cookie cutters if you want, but because this dough is so soft, I just like to hand shape it. Also, the main point of this recipe is to make the tart, so I'm not focusing too much on the shortbread. Give it a bit of a spank. And I'm going to pop it on this tray. Not quite done yet, let me clean this up a bit. There we go, I always do that so that the undersides of my trays doesn't get sticky with whatever on the work surface. Now I'm going to divide this into, how many do you think? 8? Maybe 6, 1, 2. How do you divide into 6? I've got 1, 2, 3, okay, let's do 6. 6 really rough ones, because my hands are a little bit shaky, and this isn't going to be accurate at all, but we're not going for accuracy here. 1, what do you reckon? Yeah. 2, 3. Yeah, those ones really bigger than the other. There we go. I haven't cut straight down, by the way, I've just scored about halfway through. Now I'm going to make some shortbread holes. There we go. We've got some Scottish looking style shortbread. Definitely not authentic, because actually real shortbread only uses sugar, butter and flour, nothing else. So we've got some illegal egg white in there, but it's still going to be really delicious. Okay, let's also pop this in the fridge for 15 minutes too. Now let's get baking. We're going to preheat our oven to 180 degrees C. So I've got my chilled pastry over here. And now I'm going to take this sheet of pastry, baking paper, that I saved from when we were rolling it out. And I'm going to weigh the pastry down with some ceramic baking beans. You can use dry rice and dry beans too if you don't have these. And this is going to stop the pastry from puffing up. Although it shouldn't do, because actually we've just used plain flour, no raising agent, and we've poked it, but this is extra insurance. Spread it out evenly. And now we're going to bake this for about 20 minutes to set. So it's been 20 minutes, whoops. Let me just shimmy this around here. And I'm just going to get rid of these baking beans. Now be very careful whether you use ceramic baking beans, dry beans or dry rice. This is going to be hot. So what I do is I gather up the paper. And then I put all this in a heat-proof bowl, and then I let it cool down completely. And then you can use the beans again and again to bake. I'm going to let this cool down for about 10 minutes. And of course I'm also going to bake our shortbread rounds, so this is going to go in for 20 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to let this cool and also make the filling. To make the filling, we have 200 milliliters of full fat creme fraiche. We're going to add in those 2 egg yolks that we saved earlier on, and also a whole egg. Let's break those eggs up a bit. It's fine. Now I'm going to add 200 grams of caster sugar, 2 teaspoonfuls of corn flour. This helps to set the middle. Actually, I've made it in the past without. If you want a really juicy pie, then you don't have to add this. Last time I made it, I didn't actually, but this time I want it a little bit more set, like a firmer set custard inside. And about a teaspoonful of vanilla. Let's give that a good old mix. Nice. Now that our pie crust is lovely and cools down, we're now going to fill it. And yes, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is a second pie crust now. I had to make it all again because originally I was going to use frozen blueberries, but the frozen blueberry packet let me down. It was super frosty and there was way too much liquid in there, and I tried, but it was a failed bake. It just spilled out everywhere and was a disaster. So we're trying again, and I'm going to use fresh blueberries this time because I did not trust the same brand of frozen blueberries as before, and I couldn't find any other at the supermarket, so didn't want to risk it again. On the bright side, because I made 2 lots of pastry, I also now have 2 lots of shortbread biscuits to snack on, so every cloud has a silver lining and all that. Right, first we need the star of the show, berries. And I've got 450 grams of fresh blueberries here. I actually prefer using bilberries, which are European wild blueberries, but these American cousins work just fine. I find bilberries are a little bit sweeter and more intense in flavour, but like I said, blueberries, American blueberries like these ones, these are the normal ones you can usually find at the shops, supermarkets, these are absolutely fine. There we go. Roll them around, make sure the pie is evenly filled because I want everyone who gets a slice to get an even number of blueberries. Also picking out any last stalks that I might have missed. Now I'm going to add our pastry cream. We might not need all of it, let's see. Pour it in slowly. What we don't want it is to overfill, because when it bakes in the oven it's going to puff up. And if it puffs up, you run the risk of all the juices flowing out. And if it does that, your pie could get stuck to the tin, because there is a lot of sugar in the berries, which will get all sticky. Right, let's give the berries a pat down and see. There's not much left in here. You know what? I think that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to fill it anymore. There's a little bit left in here. You can actually bake these in a water bath in ramekins and have a sort of very tart cream. It's very nice. You can also add a little bit of lemon zest to make it zesty. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to now bake this for 50 minutes to an hour. Let's start with 50 minutes until the middle is set and has just a bit of a jiggle. So let's do that now. And we are done baking. Whoops, very nearly lost the pie. But as you can see, it is a little bit jiggly. Let me give it a wobble. That is exactly how you want it. Let me just bring it closer to the camera here. Give it another jiggle. A little bit jiggly in the middle. That's exactly what we want. Good. As you can see, it has oozed out a little bit, but not too much. That is absolutely fine. And that's why it's always a good idea to put it on the tray before you bake it to catch any drips. Right, I'm going to let this cool down completely to room temperature, and then I'm going to chill it in the fridge overnight. That is some molten hot berry goodness. Definitely don't touch it at the moment. Hot stuff. And here we have the finished blueberry pie. So I'm just going to plate this bad boy up. Let's see, what we have to do is use these fingers and oh, it's already come through. It's already come off. So what we have to do is, whoops, well, I was going to say push up, but that came away really easily. Nice. Let me clean up the crumbs a little bit. And I'm going to take my spatula here, slide it in between the bottom of the pastry and the tin, and I'm going to ease it off onto the plate. In theory. This could go wrong. Oh, but it went so right. Yes! Have a look at those absolutely beautiful crisp sides. Lovely. Let's take out a slice, and this is my least favourite part because the first slice always looks a little bit sus, but let's see what's a good angle. How about here? Here, actually changed my mind. Right, cut it, and oof, the middle is so tender. All the way through. Nice, generous slice. Lovely. Take it out, and I'm going to pop it on the plate so that's just out of vision. Ah, get a load of this. Lovely. Let me give you a side view. Let me take you down so you can see. Absolutely gorgeous. And I like to serve my blueberry tart with some clotted cream. So Let's see if I can make a sort of rough quenelle out of this. I can't quenelle to save my life. You're supposed to be able to do it with 1 spoon, I cannot. My method is just to dig in and shape with 2 spoons like this, which sometimes works, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, but it's the thought that counts, right? I'm just gonna stick with that. That will do. Rough quenelle. Seems legit. Oh my, look at that pie. Rhyme not intended, although it's not really a pie as it is a tart. A pie should be covered with pastry and a tart is uncovered, at least in my opinion. Got my little shortbread triangles here. Let's actually break them up now. So the reason why I scored them, because in theory all you have to do is snap them. Yes! And they just come apart. Oh, lovely. Let's do all of them. Yes! And this tart is so satisfying to cut into. Look at how crisp that base is. Lovely snap. Ah, isn't that beautiful? You're not allowed to say no. I took too much trouble making this one today. 2 pies in one day, oh my goodness. Anyway, I've suffered for long enough. I'm going to dig straight in, get a little bit of that lovely clotted cream, bit of pastry, bit of blueberry, bit of that lovely sharp custard. Cheers! The short crust pastry is basically a very subtly sweet shortbread biscuit. So buttery and lovely. Inside's all fruity, a little bit sharp. Oh, the fragrance from those blueberries is so good. And the creamy tartness from that creme fraiche is mouth-watering. And it's perfect with the clotted cream as well. Feel free to serve it with ice cream, or if you want to have some pouring cream over there, that works too. Or just by itself. To me, without the cream, this looks like a pretty decadent breakfast too. I mean, it's fruit, it's pastry, breakfast, right? Oh, I'm so glad I didn't rage quit on this tart. But on the plus side, now you will know how to make it both ways. First with frozen blueberries, minus the frost, you can see my old video for an example, and the other way with fresh blueberries. Works exactly the same. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you will join me next Wednesday for my next one. Get the full recipe on my blog tashcakes.com, and find me on Instagram, I am tashcakes.tastes. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more. Give this video a like if you'd like to help other people find it. Comment down below if you'd like me to make anything in particular, and I'll see you guys next time. Be good, be nice, and have a good week. Cool, my lighting is so bad today. If I go like this, then I look like I haven't slept in 10 years, but I go like this, suddenly I'm young by 10 years again.